Welcome back to Gen Wars, the combative podcast between the Gen Xers and the filthy, dirty, something millennials. Just add whatever adjectives you want in there.
Can't believe you'd say that.
Sprinkle that spice how you want it in there. Today we're going to be going over the new X-Men 97 series, or at least the first 2 episodes, because that's all that's out right now, or at least when we recorded this, that's all that's out right now. I am very excited. This is something that holds near and dear to my heart. I think Steven also has a little bit. It holds a little bit of space in his nostalgia place as well. But we can get into that in a minute. Steven, you want to hit him with some plugs and start us off here?
Make sure you like and subscribe. Nick does a lot of work here on the channel, Fire Hazard 508 Creations, making play things into display things. So he really appreciates the likes and subscribes and makes the channel grow more powerful. And I've also got my own channel, Funky Games. We do playthroughs of like quintessential video games, or doing the Poser series, where we will no longer be video game posers, and we play games like Helldivers 2. So you can check that gameplay out on my channel, and I appreciate that as we're going into this combative conversation. But you could also get merch from the Funky Store, funky.store. That helps both of us out because we are collaborators in crime, and it would be a crime if you didn't pick up those shirts at funky.store. Great nostalgia about everything and all things gaming. So that's the meat and potatoes of this project is nostalgia. So Nick, you were talking about you got some nostalgia bias going on with X-Men here. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up reading X-Men comics. This came out just at I don't want to say the tail end of me reading comics, but as it was tapering off to some extent, as I was growing up and I don't want to say finding my way in the world, because I was only like 12, 13, 14, but branching out a little more, getting out in the world, meeting new friends, playing, all that stuff. So I wasn't sitting at home or going to the comic book store as much. I guess I should say I did continue that, but it became less and less as comic book stores closed and it was harder to find them. At least in my area, that we had that situation where like something like a Newbury Comics became almost the de facto place you could get comic books. And when this came out, I was so excited because I got to see all the people that I read in the issues all of a sudden now being animated and moving around and fighting and punching and zapping and laser and doing all the things that I wanted to see. Yeah, I have a slight bit of nostalgia bias for this property.
Yeah.
Overall,
I mean, you were the target demographic for the time, for the era.
100%.
And this was done by Fox. That's why Disney has it now, because of that acquisition. So like it's a little bit before my time, not by much. Granted, when it started, it was I was very young, but as they got a lot of season renewals, I think they ended up doing 5 seasons.
5 seasons in total, yes.
Yeah, so that ran right up against, and they were rerunning it, and Fox during my childhood was kind of like scrambling. I think they did like a lot of like whatever they could get their hands on, but they always had those in the can, so they were just rerunning. So I guess I got definitely that like second wave revitalization. Like all my older cousins and their older siblings, they had the toys, so those were like the toys that were beat up at the bottom of the toy bin, and they were just always really nice and cool. So I've always enjoyed the X-Men. It's very quintessential 90s, in my opinion, or like late 80s, early 90s. A lot of layover that comes in from like aesthetic, and it was a very big trendsetter for like what we expect with the superhero narrative from my childhood. It was like, if it's not as good as this, am I really interested in it? I know they tried to do an Iron Man show around that time, and they I think it really kicked off for things like the Batman animated series and Batman Beyond and the likes. Like there was a big push, like you have to have your like superhero animated IP. Even Men in Black.
Yeah, I could see that falling into that kind of category. Hold that thought.
He's got to go to the bathroom.
No, the battery on my light on the light died. I knew it was going to happen. We're back. Technical difficulties squared away. All right, so this does hold that place nostalgia for the both of us. I did see a little more of this in the reruns you were talking about because I saw the first season in its entirety. I was there for that appointment television every time it was on. Season 2, pretty sure I was there for every one of those as well. And then season 3, 4, and 5 got a little spaced out, a little... I don't think I caught every episode. I know I've seen bits and pieces here and there, but in general, I went and kind of watched a recap of what happened, and I remembered 10% of it, maybe. And that might be being generous. I don't remember a lot of those season 3, 4, and 5. So I think that covers that nostalgia bias section.
I will say
starters.
that like the most nostalgia bias that what this has done and accomplished, and I guess we should go into like spoilers. Like we've already watched it.
Yeah. Maybe we should say that going into this. Spoilers. We are going to spoil the crap out of this. So if you haven't watched it, you might want to stop because we are going to talk about everything that happened. So get off here and go watch it. Where is it? Disney Plus?
Yeah, Disney Plus.
Get over there and watch it on Disney Plus, and then come back, and then we can have a little sit down and chit chat about it, or at least listen to us yap about it.
Right. But I think most of this has already been known. Like the dedication to the style, like not doing a full reboot at all, but a direct continuation. However they've emulated the style, I guess it is like just a built upon cell shading, like more and more of that. We can go into that more when we're covering production value, but just going off of like nostalgia and how they've captured that. The intro, perfectly done. Like
there was some different shots that they added in there.
Yes.
There was a shot of Morph. I don't know what he was fighting. It went by pretty quick, and I just kind of started jotting down my notes, and I was like, I'll go back, and then I never went back and looked at it.
Yeah.
But they did add a couple different shots, and I actually went and compared it to the original.
Yes.
Which is cool. I mean, they padded it out, or I don't say padded it out, but added some stuff that happened in the later seasons and stuck it in the intro for this, which is kind of cool.
And I believe between episode 1 and 2, there's some modularity with the characters that they're showcasing. Because in episode 2, Magneto was in it, where in episode 1 he wasn't.
No, I thought he was in there. Hold on.
I thought they changed it up.
Right here.
Nick cut the footage up. I was incorrect. If I was correct, keep it. Because Professor X was in the first episode, then they swapped him out in the second one for Magneto. If I'm not mistaken.
Magneto's in it because it's at the very end. It's when they're clashing. Magneto rises up, and we see the rest of.
He gets his own title card. That's what I'm saying.
Does he?
Yeah.
Did I missed that?
Yeah, go to the second one. He gets the whole title card.
All right, hold on. Go to the second one.
Fact check.
Fact check. Oh, he does have. Okay, he does have his own title card. I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they dropped Professor
He's
X
the first one. Yeah, he's the first.
Yeah, because he's now the leader. So that's really good, subtle.
And I just rewatching this one right here. He takes two I beams and forms them up into an X in front of him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, that's slick. I totally missed that. Good call. The music is also updated.
Yeah,
they re-recorded it, added a little more spice and a little more rock to it. Like it's got a little more twang, a little more in there.
Oh, and I believe the new intro is still even shorter with additional content, but the older one was just so slow because it was more about the runtime padding back in the day.
Okay.
So like after the intros and stuff like that, because Morph was killed in the first episode of the series, and then like he wasn't dead, he was all those things. If you want to look in the back lore of stuff, you can do that. He was always kind of like the more gaunt kind of guy for me. So I had like initial questions. It's like, why is he kind of the more amorphous? Like, I like it because it kind of makes him more of a character. But apparently that's more true to like the comic look or the uncanny X-Men look.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's good researched. Because I think
Yeah, because he puts on that face to fit in.
right.
To fit in, because if not, he's got no nose and completely bald, and
Yeah.
yeah.
But
You're
Morph
right, yeah,
is kind of
looks
a
very
horrible
amorphous.
person. I don't like. I don't.
He is. Both of our notes. I'm looking at your notes right now, and my notes were that like, wow, that's pretty morbid. That he's Professor X just died.
Just died like less than a
Recently.
year, assuming, or like exactly a year. Like,
And he strolls in just like, I'm gonna pretend. And you're like, wow, don't do that. That's not cool, bro.
right. And I know that he's doing it a lot to kind of like save face, because I don't think it's well known that Xavier is dead to the public, like just to keep the mutant quelled or something like that, or
Yeah.
maybe they've changed it at this point in the narrative. But he keeps doing it. Like, he's such a dick.
He does it so many times.
It's just
And you're like, wow. And I'm trying to remember if he actually. I think he was kind of that and did that in the.
Well, because he was only there for the first episode, and then he was like basically enslaved by Sinister for however long, and being brainwashed and tormented. So I'm hoping that's just kind of layover from that, and not him as a person, but just like transforming into Xavier and then into Jean Grey, and then
That too, yeah. He just kept dropping them. That like literally my note. That's what my notes are like. Wow, what are you doing?
right. Well, and he's gonna get gooped, like when he transformed into Sabretooth at the end of like the second episode, just to get like
I thought
a rise up. Like that was okay, but what if Wolverine was like, hell no, brother, and just like sent him to the Shadow Realm? Like, dude, you're putting your life on the line doing that stuff. And then another thing that just goes into my nostalgia, and I know there's a decision behind this, and this might fall under like production value, but I wasn't a huge fan of the Storm hair change look. I know that's the look that she had, like an alternate version of her had, or the future version of her had, so I don't know if they were trying to pay homage to like this is the transition to that haircut in the future. I also thought that maybe it was just like an edit to make the animation a little bit easier, because she's got the wind blown, like everything's going all over the place. But I thought that was kind of the importance of like the 80s big hair look, was that it really animated well with the storm cycles and like the wind, and like it just gave her a lot of secondary motion that was really cool. They kind of keep that with like the ponytail thing, but her hair is pretty like mounted up there.
Yeah, she's had that hairstyle for some time, or in a lot of the comic books. So,
and they did like a flashback where the model had the full hair, and it just looks so much better. And I guess maybe that's just me being a little bit of a hater, but I think the bigger hair with her motif is cooler.
All right, that's a fair assessment. So Magneto's got long hair. Jean Grey's got long, like, so they're like
Rogue basically has the same hair physics to it as well, so I don't think it was like a cost saving. But so I'll give them credence that it was a change to differentiate the silhouettes of like Rogue and her. I think that makes sense. But also kind of like showcase that we're like continuing on and going closer to where that future, where Cable and Bishop come from, and where Storm has the different hairstyle. That maybe that's just me reaching, but I'll accept it as the answer.
Anything else that you want to tackle in the nostalgia zone here?
No, I think everything starts to fall under like intent and production value. And if you follow along with the channel, we have these categories that we kind of break things down. So right now we're talking about our nostalgia and our biases within the film, and in the next section we're going into production value, like how well was this put together, how well is it perceived. So Nick, you have a lot more background in animation and those kinds of execution, so let's hear what you got to say on that.
I'm going to start this off with I really liked this animation, this show thus far. Like, I will continue to watch it. This is pure nitpicking. And there seems to be a hierarchy of animation just in general. We have the top tier, big action scene, things are being punched, people are floating, lightning, magnetism, whatever is happening. It is beautifully animated. And then we have the mid tier where not a lot is happening, but they're kind of just milling around, maybe some minor action. And then there's the base level where nothing is happening in the frame, and though each of those took a, as you went down those tiers, to me felt like they were less not as well drawn, not as well shaded. Shading, yes, but not there's not a lot of additional depth to their face. Mm-hmm. I wrote that they felt very simple or flat. Where I before we started recording this, I started pulling imagery of Magneto from season 4 and his close up and just minor things to give his face some more depth. To the Magneto right now, where he seems just flat and it's like line. Here's his face. Here's the nose. Here's the cheekbone. That's it. No extra shading like a comic book would. A comic book artist is going to go in there, do all that secondary and tertiary shading to give that, to pull his face out, to show those depths of things. And they did it in some of they did it in a lot of the other shots, but in those static basic shots, it's pretty simple animation. And that's no knock on any of the animators. I know they're most likely under a time crunch. They said, this is good. People above them gave them the good to go, and they moved on with it. So that's a pure nitpick. Like, there is one shot where I'll probably throw up a still here. Scott comes down after they blow up the Blackbird, and he's like, "I'll see you on the ground." And I was like, wait, what? How is this going to happen? Uses his eye blast and slows himself down. I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. The smoke clears, and I was very underwhelmed by the single cell art, the drawing of him in that pose. I was like, what is that? That should be something that I'm grabbing and immediately hanging on my wall. Printing out, if not finding a cell somewhere. And I was just like, okay. Again, those are things that I will overlook and move on from, but I saw that and I was like, I wonder if anyone else is seeing this, or I'm just being that person right now.
I think that's where I go with it as well. I think it's immaculate. I think, like, when they're really pushing the rig, or really when they're kind of like pushing a lot of like the perspectives, like, as long as they stay in like those very iconic like 90s comic shots, where I think maybe some of the line art hits better on the 3D model, because
I think that might be it.
Yes, it's something with how they do it. I don't know how they do it. But I'm just assuming like they're in a certain perspective, those line art looking layers of the model stay in place. So like maybe it's like an exterior one. So when you go into like 3/4, it looks great. But if you go in like a little bit more, like some of them are going to de-render and whatnot, or not call up that layer.
Kind of. But yeah, I see what you're saying. There's definitely some of the shots where after he stands up and he's like, "Get ready, my X-Men," or something, like ready yourself, my X-Men.
Looks a lot better.
It's in that medium shot. He's at that, the camera's up here slightly, and he's got everybody behind him. That's a beautiful shot, but it was just lacking, and I don't know. Maybe it's too clean. It needs to be a little dirtier.
You can smell the cell shading on it, and I think it's okay. It wasn't as immersion breaking if I wasn't watching it like for review purposes within this
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah, I probably would have.
I wouldn't care. Wouldn't care. But when it does work, when it looks great. I think there's a couple times where the mouth flap wasn't really like doing it for me.
Yeah, it didn't hit right.
It kind of felt like Archer, if you've ever watched any of that show.
A tiny bit.
Yeah, it felt like Archer walked and we're running right now, but sometimes we got to take a little bit of a breather, like through the marathon, to and give up some of those shots. But overall, I'd like, if I had to rank it, I know we're not ranking within this until the whole series is complete. Then we'll do a ranking video. Make sure you check that out when it's there. I would rate it very highly. We're doing we're doing a lot of great justice with character designs. We're doing a lot of great justice with costuming. We're doing a lot of great attention to storytelling and narrative. This is probably the best I've seen of like quickly expositioning to get an audience up to speed. So this works within its own merits.
I understand why they're doing it. Obviously, I know the stories. You know most of the stories, and a lot of the people coming to this know the stories, but there's a whole new audience coming to this. So I get it that they're going to drop these exposition nuggets along the way to be like, remember that time that I did the thing? And you're like, yes, I remember the time you did the thing. Something I have to get over. I have to accept and move on from. And it's fine. I get why it's there. And it's quick. It's quick.
It's
and
very
being
harmless.
Like, hey, it's very harmless. Exactly. They did it. I think they did it once in the first episode, and they did it, I think, immediately in the second episode. And I kind of like, all right, I'm stop nitpicking. You don't need to nitpick. This is not a reason to nitpick.
Right.
Like,
they're choosing it very selectively. So they're like, kind of like, they used the new guy to kind of introduce like how the X-Men function, how they fall within the dispute of like prejudice. And that was like really like a very snippet of like introducing Magneto, which is like that reveal becomes more important later. And then just like a little snippet of like what Magneto's crimes were as to why this is a big deal that he's going in front of the UN and trying to be a good guy now, because he's like basically done an insurrection of mutants to take over at that point, and he didn't quite do it, and then everybody's like, okay, he's actually the good guy now, and you wouldn't have that context without having the entire show, more or less. So just to quickly get it in there with just like a quick, I think it was like a news report or something, like after his failed rebellion of the mutants after Xavier's death, like blah 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 blah, and it was done.
Yes.
So it works for me.
Yeah. No, I like I said, again, I know why it's there, and I appreciate that they're getting others up to speed. Minor nitpick, and I'm gonna get over it real quick because
I was about to say I don't even think that's a fair nitpick. I think that's like the Nicholas special nitpick because they have to do it. They're without.
We have to talk about something, Steven.
Okay, give it to me. Give it to me.
No,
oh yeah.
No. I'm saying we have to talk about something, so I'm nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking.
Oh my god! No. I'm picking up what you're putting down, but
yeah, it was not. It's not immersion breaking. It just was something that popped into my head when I heard it, and I went, "Oh, okay, all right," and I kind of moved on from that.
Yeah, the sound is great. The music is great.
Yeah.
The voice acting is great. They got as many people as probably feasible to return for their role, which I think they don't have to do by any means.
Did not look up to see who returned and who did not.
I know for a fact Rogue did. I know Wolverine did.
Really? Because he's
older, bro. He's like,
I mean, I get, it's no different than Peter Cullen and Optimus,
right? Yeah, I'm
Optimus
pretty sure. I could be wrong. Nickel say, Stephen was absolutely moronic in his statement, but I know Rogue's character came back for sure. I know Jubilee bowed out. So an Asian American actress could do it, I believe.
Okay.
I think some of the people passed, or I think that was about the only like I think they legitimately tried to get everyone that they could, if they weren't already doing a different role.
Oh, okay. And all the people that I did not have, I didn't have a problem with any of their performances. They were all delivered fantastically.
Yeah. No, I think it was it was that unnecessary amount of effort, which I don't necessarily see from Disney most times. I don't know. Again, it's hard to look at Disney as this behemoth and say like they do anything consistently, because there's so many people at different levels, making decisions for different things. But as far as this goes, as probably the best nostalgia bait product, I think I'm pretty comfortable saying that. As far as production value goes, this is the best IP that
I'm assuming that. I mean, we haven't even finished. Obviously, they haven't aired all the episodes yet, but I'm assuming this isn't going to be a one-off situation.
They might wrap it up with the season. I think that would be the best call. Maybe I think that'd be the best call.
I could see them potentially trying to transition this into the live action thing, or I mean, maybe it's just going to stand alone on its own.
That's what they've claimed.
Maybe they're just trying to, get people up to speed because Deadpool's coming, and I think we're going to be positing in some X-Men into that, or at least positing the idea that the X-Men are coming from this or just beyond this, and here's the way that they're going to be coming.
Yeah. That historically hasn't done it for me. I don't necessarily care about like the cinematic universe tie-ins or anything like that.
You haven't watched many of them, have you?
No, there's no reason to. If I can enjoy a piece on its own, that should be how I should be able to do it. If it has to stand on the foundation of, let's say, 20 hours of cinema, I don't think it's as good, personally.
Okay.
If I can enjoy it without it, no, that's not to say that like going back and watching things like I'm like, wow, okay, now it's like even better. That's one thing, but like if it's like you can't watch any of it until you watch all the other, like it's like, oh, but they're setting up for the other thing, that's why it's good. It's like no, it needs to be good on its own. If it happens to set something up,
there are a lot of them that are good on their own, but they also have a larger setup in play that they're going for.
Sure, and I think that's where like the DC universe has floundered infinitely more because they're like
that's a word we could use for it.
Yeah. So example of Guardians of the Galaxy. I think all of those work. Now granted they're more of a trilogy, so like watching 3 without watching 1 and 2 might be a little bit rough. But that's not to say that they are necessary to enjoy Endgame or anything like that. Right?
Yeah. No. Yeah, absolutely. You could watch those standalone. They all fall in their own kind of space that can be watched separately from everything else.
Right.
And then if you happen to watch the big culmination movie, they're in it too. When you're like, oh, look, I remember those guys.
Yeah.
But that's, you've got to be willing to put forth the time and effort for that, and I know you have not.
No, and or not compelled to, because a lot of them are bad. Well, I think we're already getting into kind of like the spirit of the show. Like, what are they trying to do? Dancing on like, are they setting up for something? Are they going to just do a one-off season? Like, I think just given how well executed this is, I think there is a true narrative arc that they're going for. I think that there's a reason that they wanted to continue X-Men, the animated series, in the way that they're going about it. So to me, that's like, okay, you've got a passionate group of writers, a passionate group of people that are researching and getting the look and feel down and the characters really well fleshed out. They want to expand on that with a good narrative. Maybe the end is to just tee up for something else, or it's just to finish the story that was kind of ended once but then wasn't ended at all, and then like left in a little bit of limbo,
fell to the wayside.
I
don't know how season 5 ended. I don't know where they
with
left
Xavier
off.
getting attacked and then he was sent out into space.
So it was kind of just so it kind of went out on a whimper to an extent.
Oh, I think it was a way to end it. Like, you can just like make assumptions like, oh, that like they rebuilt, and like it could have been solved with like a nice little short, like in 10 years later, like Professor Xavier's grave is out there and everybody's happy. Like that was completely doable and the show would done. Like that's a reasonable ending to have.
There's been some of my favorite TV shows that get to the end and you're like, what is this?
Right.
What is this? This is how you're wrapping this up?
Oh, well, because there was no
I
intention to wrap up. That's always the thing that I hope
True.
to see. Like, if you're like, okay, we have the story that we want to tell that has a beginning, middle, and end. Whether or not it spins off into other things, we need to tell this story first.
But it's that assumption part. It's that assumption that's left to the end. Like, again, that little like cherry on top. They rebuilt and moved on with their as the X-Men. Just that little final sign off, so we know that we don't have to make that assumption that the X-Men didn't fall apart because Charles died, and then you're like, wait a minute, why? And I obviously I know that doesn't happen. And the comic books have gone on and said that didn't happen, but the viewing audience doesn't know that didn't happen. They had to make that assumption.
Yeah. And to me, I guess I'm looking for the through line. So what's the through line? Is it the redemption of Magneto? Is it the passing of the torch from Scott Summers? Is it like Storm getting her powers back? Like, any of those would do it for me, like, personally. Like, everybody else gonna have what? Sure.
Just kidding.
But if you accomplish, like, I guess you could feasibly accomplish all of those within one season or one arc.
Yeah.
That would be
10
enough.
episodes to do a lot of that. That's might be a rush. That might be a rush.
Well,
job
I feel like
if
a
they
lot.
only do 10.
Yeah, sure. And so if it's 2 seasons, it's 2 seasons. I think as long as you're setting out to tell a story and you're not compromising that story, and you're not compromising characters to tell a story, you're doing your diligence.
Yes. Yeah.
And the spirit of X-Men is like acceptance within prejudices. So, like, are they going to tell a story of where there's acceptance? I don't know.
I don't know, because I don't know if it's really ever been. I stopped reading comic books up to a certain point, so other people can speak on that if they delved into that more, or if it just kind of is a thing that is prevalent in the world. So I unfortunately don't have that answer.
Yeah, well, and that,
but I would like
it's going
just
into...
based on these 2 episodes. I'd love to see at least 10 more.
Oh,
just
yeah.
give me just give me some more, because there are so many people, and if they want to take this into something else, not just specifically X-Men, they already set up Sunspot, the kid that they're trying to save in episode 1. As soon as his arm popped off, and I was like, that's Sunspot, and he's part of the New Mutants, so we can already start going in that direction.
Yeah, I think once you've built this, I'm going to call it an engine, like however they produced the show, it's unlimited, and I think that's something that would really bolster Disney's streaming subscription, is having something that's consistent and is pretty long running. But
and it's so vast.
Mm-hmm.
It's so vast.
And its pacing is very well. A lot is accomplished in each episode. And if you're doing a weekly, is it bi-weekly or weekly release schedule?
I think it is weekly.
Okay. So
I'm pretty sure it's weekly release schedule.
Yeah, as long as as long as they're not crushed under that schedule, I'm hoping they like have little breaks between seasons or whatever, where they can keep up the story, they can keep up the production value. I think you've really achieved something that's infinitely repeatable. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, even just with, so this was something that I really enjoyed, is that Morph dropped in as Colossus, he dropped in as the Blob, he dropped in as Psylocke, did he drop in as somebody else?
Lady Death,
Lady Deathstrike. Yeah, like I was like, yeah. Oh wait, that's Morph. Ah, like
that means they have the models done. That's my thing. It's like,
yeah, like they popped me for that one. I was like, oh, I got so excited because, with sprinkling those little pieces in, I mean, if we don't get Colossus, I'm gonna be a sad boy, because Colossus is one of my favorites.
He's a cool figure.
Go check out my channel. Or wait, we're on my channel. Go check out the other videos on my channel of the Colossus figure that I built. They're kind of, I guess, setting up those things that they could use in the future. Hopefully we'll see them return, which would be nice.
that really spins nicely into the next category of rewatchability. So I
Yes.
think what it really does is set up all of the animated series for rewatchability. Like, this is the perfect time to just run through, which I think they have them all up on Disney Plus. So if you're really trying to like maintain subscribe, like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're like, we want to get funding so we can make projects like this. We have license to all the old stuff. It's about 5 seasons deep, however many episodes. Like, that's when we had some like banger,
It's a lot.
like numbers, like 70
episodes, 70 something episodes.
Yeah, and so at like 23 minutes each or whatever runtime is without commercials, like,
Yeah, there was the 22, 23 minutes with commercials. So
yeah, so like that's quite a few hours of investment and of streaming time. So that makes this rewatchability metric really high as far as a value to Disney producing it. So they should have no problem like investing in this IP going forward.
yeah, I mean, I even put it on my watch list before recording this, or before we decided to do this, where I was like, should we rewatch the whole previous 5 seasons? And I'm like, we both were like, there's a little much right now.
Right, to get this out timely. The important, like, when you have such a long gap between like ending and starting over here, it has to be able to stand on its own a little bit, be palpable in its own state, and then be encouraging to go back and like, oh man, you know what, I really do want to go back and watch all that stuff. I think it's accomplishing that. I think it's very successful in that.
I've already been encouraged to want to go back and watch it. So I think they've done their job, not just for me, but I can see others going back and wanting to delve into all of that.
Yeah. Some funny moments, just from beyond like Morph just being like kind of a horrible person. Wolverine's line, he's like, we're not maiming anybody. He's like, that's not maiming, it's just weight loss. Great line. Loved that one. Weight loss. And then just like the concept of the UN hearing, just like in society when we've had so many hearings, and it's just like very silly to see. Like, they were even doing that back in the day, that those are big like cultural phenomena moments, to really play on that, and then just have Magneto be like, I don't even have to be here, you guys are fools, but I will restrain myself. And they're like, you know what, he's a great guy. We're just gonna
so in season 4, that there's an episode called a two episode arc called Sanctuary. And you had wrote in your notes, what's with Magneto's new outfit.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I guess so we're in episode 2. So that is his post Asteroid M costume.
Satellite, yeah.
If you go back and watch the very beginning of that episode, he crashes into the UN because they're also trying to wrangle and gather up the mutants. So he's already addressed the UN once in a much different manner, in a much more angry, I'm Magneto, watch out fashion.
Yeah. I think just
and this was also in the comic books too. I'm gonna throw up. I found the it was the Uncanny X-Men. I don't know what issue it was, but it's on the screen right now. It's the trial of Magneto. He's in that same outfit, which I think this then, somebody can comment and let me know, but I believe this transitions into his full black outfit where he has just white stripes, black helmet with the like white outlined everything, which I love that one. That gear for him. Gear like they're wrestlers.
I mean, there might be some influence within both parties of there.
Oh, I just saw in my notes that Morph also turned into Archangel at one point after the jet blew up.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. I thought that was awesome.
Because he was one of the original X-Men, yes?
Or I
thought he was just Angel. There's Angel and Archangel.
He was just Angel, but Apocalypse got a hold of him and
made him
turned him into Archangel as one of the... I think he was one of the horsemen?
I think he was one of the horsemen.
Yeah.
Or like the head horseman, but not a horseman in title or something like that. I also do like speaking of like scenes that are really good, I like that they actually got Cyclops to the birth of his kid, because I think that's a better story beat for like unifying and drawing him away from being part of the X-Men. If I'm going like, it's better in my mind than him missing the birth and then be like, oh god, I gotta be there for my son. Like it was more impactful that he did make it, and the X-Men were still more or less okay. All right, like sorry, Storm, like yikes. But like it makes it a lot more justified in his mind, like, oh, I do need to step away, and then he shows that character development just like within the next couple scenes. That makes more logical sense than I think the stereotypical trope would be that he does in fact miss the birth,
and then he's beating himself up for
right?
it.
And then we got like 3 episodes of him coming and then like convincing him it's like that played out. I don't want to see that here. So
but also hilarious that they stuck Wolverine in the position to, or I guess he's to be
very great,
the one that has to transport her to the thing. He's like, oh, I don't know what to do.
I just really good. I don't really have any qualms with the story beats thus far.
No, definitely not. There was something that I wanted to bring up. Something with Cyclops where they show that we've never really seen him fight like this. In the very first episode where he's using his optic blast to move himself around the room.
The propulsion kind of aspects of it.
I was like, what? It was good job, guys. Like, good, like adding something that I guess I'd never thought of or never had seen him do. I was like, that is fantastic. As well as him dropping from the sky.
Well, yeah, that was like the payoff. Like, they teed up that he can kind of like have enough power to move himself. He could totally do that. Like, instead of it, like, yes, it would have made a cool grand reveal, but I think that kind of just shirked off. Like, no, we're experimenting with here as far as like the logistics of mutant powers, because there are a lot of logistics. Like Morph, when he turns into Psylocke, where do the swords come from? What do they beat? Where do all the clothes come from? Like, what is his? I don't know if that's been.
Yeah, I don't know how he. I don't know what he does or how he does it. Like,
right.
What I'm assuming it's just all anything that's touching him, he can morph into that. But
I have no idea.
But you're right. Like, she has energy swords. How does he produce energy swords?
Well, they didn't look like energy swords. They looked like metal steel swords in that little bit. So like, I would have bought the energy swords. Yeah. I was
being inundated with flashing imagery, and I was like,
this is not.
My monkey brain was going off.
I get his ability to take the powers on, because I think that's like the difference between his powers and Mystique's, where Mystique really is only a visual person, which where she could like use her like skin things to make swords, but wouldn't use them. That would be like the limitations of her power that makes sense to me. But where Morph's limitation powers, like he can really only copy powers. He can't copy. Or he can do clothes because his outfit changes, like the Incredibles like has like adaptive clothing, or I don't know. Morph's power needs a little bit more fleshing out for me personally.
I don't know if they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I know, because I never really worried about it because he was dead for a good chunk of right. And maybe Sinister was doing manipulation to make his powers a lot more powerful, or covering for his gaps in power. Like, it wasn't something that I really thought about, but like just that scene, like a little bit where he turned to someone specifically with swords that are like an extra bit, like that, and then used them. It's just like when it goes outside of powers where I start to have a little bit of a question mark. That was my nitpick. You got one, I got one.
Okay. Put it up on the board. So the Rogue Storm losing her powers. I guess I didn't think that was going to happen. They foreshadowed the crap.
Oh yeah, I knew that was happening right when I was like, somebody's losing their powers. Because I think in like the first scene they like showcase what the collar can do and the blasters, and they're like, oh no, it's limiting my powers. And then Storm shows up, like, I'll show you power. I was like, oh, you're getting your powers gibbed somehow for some amount of time. That was the shotgun on the mantelpiece if I've ever seen it.
I guess I was invested in not paying attention, so that's
fair.
They got me. Yeah. You know, as soon as it happened, I went, oh no, the scene on the bed where she was talking to Jean, being like, I wish I could be human at some point, but I also, And I was like, no, man, how did I miss that one? Man, there's some cliffhangers here that we've left on that
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see. One thing that she obviously has the baby, and I didn't know he's supposed to have a twin brother.
They already found him in the show, though, technically, right?
No,
I'm pretty sure.
He has I think she births a twin. Like,
oh, Jean Grey. Well, so
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think so.
Nathan and Nathaniel are the two boys.
Well, maybe they're fixing that because that's silly. Unless they're doing. I mean, they revealed the clone facet of the narrative that they're kind of dancing on.
Oh, maybe that's how they'll bring that in, and
Yeah.
maybe they won't, and maybe they just want to dress it, and that's okay too. Like, I'm
right. If I had to make a prediction, is that Sinister still had the Jean Grey clone, and she also had a baby with the Scott Summer DNA, and they were technically born right at the same time, and then after Sinister took the kid, she escaped, and now she's there. That's my best guess.
I like that. Oh, that's the big thing I wanted to bring up. I don't remember this, and maybe this happened amidst the season 3, 4, 5 that I don't know, but Rogue and Magneto got together. Is that what I'm gathering here, or is it just he can touch her without her absorbing his
I believe
powers?
that's new. I think it may have been implied before Rogue came to the X-Men, even in episode 1. Their first team or something like it's old stuff that I think was outside of the series canon. But yeah, essentially his magnetic field and her field cancel each other out, so they're just kind of neutral on each other. So they like that.
Okay.
I believe they had a relationship before she left for the X-Men, is what I believe it was.
All right,
which is where she was like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. And then she walks out and just Gambit is dejected, and I was like,
he drops the Queen of Hearts, the symbolism.
Yeah. Poor Gambit. I wrote poor Gambit.
Yeah, and then he's salty at Magneto later. So we've got the new Wolverine, Jean Grey. So, we got the new triangle set up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There we go. All right, I'm gonna have to do some more research on that because I'd like to know.
I think they're pulling a lot more from Uncanny, and they're kind of merging the options of Uncanny X-Men with this.
Regular.
Don't know that for sure though.
Yeah. Okay. No, you might be right. I will dig into that one.
Tell us all the things that we don't know in the comments below. Tell us where we're wrong or where we're right or what you think's going on in the show. We always appreciate those kind of things.
The end song, the end credit version of the theme song, all slowed down. Oh man, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's so
they hit
good.
it with the banger on the front and a banger on the backside.
Yeah, and the character selection screen with
the character selection screen too.
So that's from the original.
That in the
show.
original?
Yes, but the models were 3D models, like Beast Wars looking 3D models in the character selection screen. So now they're still technically 3D models, but they look more on the 2D side. It was just great success.
It was very good. They've nailed a lot of things on this. I'm very very pleased.
Yes,
all around, and can't wait. I think based on where we're recording this, it comes out in 2 days, so we will have to get on that, and then we can record the next episode and see where this takes us.
Yep, and that's why you got to be subscribed and ring the bell so you know when those episodes drop. Check out my channel because we're doing stuff. I might play some X-Men Arcade. Who knows? That might be out there.
Ooh, I might come join you on that one.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Nick, round us out.
Keep an eye out. We're going to be dropping episode, what are we on? Going to be on 3, and we're going to keep this rolling all the way to the end. So come back and join us for more X-Men 97. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.